we don't want to do is err to one side or the other of that. We don't want to just rest in I amness. There are traditions that do that. It's not a bad thing. It just makes it really hard to contribute to the world in any positive sense. And then there are others that want to simply identify with the body and have experiential realization. And that's fine. They are identifying with that which they are not. And they're identifying with a finite self. And they're identifying with a self that will stay dead, torture them enormously, and then die. And somehow getting in touch with that is a good thing. Get degrees in it in alternative universities. So we want to try to do both of those. But it's always a good reminder that the self that we are working on is an object. Categorically is an object. You can see it. And that which you can see is not the seer. And the seer is this vast emptiness in which all of this is arising. And the dual side of the tantric street, nirvana and samsara are one, emptiness and form. You've heard all of the ways of saying that. And what that really means is that in you which is witnessing this moment to moment is emptiness, is nirvana. And that which you can see is form, samsara. And form has one structure. It's finite, it's partial. And as Buddha, the first noble truth is, form is here to torture you. And that's true if you identify with another form who's getting bashed around. So if you identify with one object, all objects do is crash into each other. And they have sort of two fundamental drives. They have hope and fear. So anything that you see as an object in yourself, that's that finite self. And it's driven by those kinds of motives. And we have a little bit more complex, sophisticated motivation for finite things, called agency and communion and eros and thanatos. Things that drive whole lives. That's still things that drive finite things. And all finite things yearn for is infinity. So if you rest in infinity, then finite things are fine. If you identify with a finite thing, welcome to hell. And so what we don't want to do is think that by exercising our finite selves, we're going to get our finite selves into a condition where they're happy. Because they will never be happy, they will just be buff. That's not to be confused. The only thing that's happy is the witness. So that pure self, that pure awareness, that pure big mind is happy in the sense that it's already free. It's already the space in which things arise. And because that is so, there's nothing that can crash into it. There's nothing that can hurt. There's nothing outside of you that can crash into you. So you're free of fear when you rest in that. And because there's nothing outside of you, there's nothing that could possibly complete you. So you're free of hope. And then within that spaciousness, these finite things arise. And that's the extraordinary game of manifestation. And so in the manifest side of the street that we are, the thing that is best done is engaging that game fully. Because that's the actual manifest exuberant side of this ever-present self that you are. And that's a striking thing about it, is that in the deepest part of you, in that I amness that you are right now, there is an impulse not to stay alone. I find that endlessly fascinating. That in that infinite bliss that you are, you could have simply stayed that way for eternity. chose to throw yourself out and create all this. It's astonishing. And then all of us at some point identified with one of the little objects that were arising in our actual primordial self. And as we moved from an identity with that I amness to an identity with this finite body-mind, the nightmare began. So we're here to celebrate the recognition that the nightmare is not fundamentally touching what you are. And when that's the case, these finite objects become not the vehicle of what you are, but the vehicle of expressing what you are. And we want to have that expression simply be as full and as complete and as radiant as possible. So that's what an integral map is for. The integral approach is on that side of the street. It's not a way to find the ever-present. It's a way to manifest more fully this ever-present. So that's what we want to try to balance as we're doing this. So it's a good counter measure to as many modules as we can train and as many practices as we can do of just realizing that they are actually arising in this space and self-liberating in this space. And then they can be taken up as a form of play and expression joyously. So that's part of what integral practice is about that. And it looks like y'all fully understand this too, so this is good. So let's play.